Okay.
Okay. How's your week been?
Fairly busy. I'm doing a lot of work with on the system for the kennels. So it's very interesting. What I found is that I combine Claude to do most of the work, but now Claude has a skill that allows it to consult with Codex, which is the OpenAI ChatGPT version, and that works very, very well. So every time I say that, Claude comes back and says, Codex had some really great ideas, and here are the 3 things that Codex found that I missed. And there's a standing order for every major change to always consult Codex. And in addition, every night Codex is going to run an audit of my entire project and come up with ideas that they have to work on and improve. So it's really nice to see them collaborating.
That sounds really cool. I did think I don't know if it's because of updates, but I've seen some positive changes in the responses I'm getting from chat. Because it remembers more of our conversations, and I think that's a big help. But it does get stuck on a loop of like a specific style of communication. If that's what I asked for once, and now it's not relevant to the next subject.
Well, you may want to start a new chat, a new session.
No, of course, but because of the memory, he assumes he knows me as a.
Oh yes, I've seen that before. I do a random conversation about something, and then he pops out something, and he knows that where I live, or he knows that, and assumes that's that is an issue. The Holy Grail, I think some people think that what you need in order to achieve AGI is to have AI that actually really learns, and that apparently is very difficult because everybody knows that's what you need to do, and yet nobody succeeded in doing that. Because if you think about when they train the AI, they tune the weights in the model until the model knows in response as well as they can, right? But once they've done that, that's it. The weights are frozen, right? And there is every time you open the same model of ChatGPT, every time you open a new session, it's a blank slate. I mean, it might have read your memory, it might have read the information that you gave it, but if you opened it with in a new window that doesn't know about you, it is precisely the same as the chat that was there a few weeks ago, even though it interacted with millions of people and could have, if it was a person, it would have learned so much from the interaction with all the people.
It is fine-tuning.
There is fine-tuning, but that's it. Once the fine-tuning is done, the point is it doesn't learn anything from its interaction, from searching the web when, it can search the web so that it can gain access to information that is beyond its learning window. But it will have to search the web every time, again and again. It doesn't remember the results of the search.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't integrate it into its process of finding the answer in the future. Not even necessarily just giving you what was given in the past, but just using that as a cross-reference for something completely different.
I didn't work with fine-tuning specifically, but I did read about it. And it seems the way that it works is that you give it example conversations and tell it that's like the type of answers that you should give in this or that scenario. I think that if you had this conversation with it and you decided, okay, take this conversation as an example, and this was a good conversation, this was a bad conversation, then you could make it learn from past conversations. But I just don't think they do that. Probably it's much more complex than that, and I probably am missing lots of things. But there are ways to do it. I just don't think that they're being implemented.
I mean, one of the risks is that you don't want random people of the internet to influence. It ties to the political campus study that I shared. I was thinking, could you actually take a copy of ChatGPT and persuade it to be a libertarian? right? So if you really, it's logical, it's intelligent. If you spoke to it, if you showed it the evidence, if you helped it understand why some of the things that were in its training data are actually mistaken or distorted or partial or misimportant information, would you be able to persuade, an instance of ChatGPT to become libertarian?
You could
The short
persuade it
answer
to
is
become
no.
anything. You remember
No,
Mecha
no.
Hitler?
I had this
No,
conversation.
the reason that they did, they what's it called? They reinforced it to not do that because people convinced Grok to go Nazi.
Right. Well, I had this conversation with Chad actually. I tried to use it as a baseline to write a story, but I wanted it to have a perspective of like a specific individual. So say like I told it to write the story for using objectivist epistemology or something like that, and then but he would always revert back to. So for instance, like take the baseline that you as the writer assume that Ayn Rand is right and you agree with her philosophy, and then he always comes back to me with those goddamn greedy capitalists want to eat destroy this government administration or whatever something. It won't stick to it. It says yes, I'll do that, and then it proceeds to not.
That's because it's not actually intelligent.
So that's what we were saying before, that it's not actually intelligent. So I don't know if you guys watch Matt Walsh.
Not regularly anymore.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, did you used to and not anymore? Why is that?
Yes, no, years ago I watched, when Matt Walsh is best on sort of culture wars, and when that was what interested me, I watched him more. But now I'm kind of bored. I think the whole culture war thing is like a bit passé. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's what your culture enemies want you to think.
Right.
So anyway, that's why he's no longer in my
Okay. So nothing specifically. You're not doing like the bar thing where he
I'm
stops
not
watching
boycotting
someone.
him. I'm not boycotting
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I was. He's doing this this documentary series. I hate documentaries, by the way. I hate the structure of how it's done. I just don't like it. So, anyways, he's doing this documentary series about American history, and he's discussing the origins of the civil rights movement and the way it's portrayed in history versus the way it was in real life. And everyone makes jokes about the mostly peaceful
protesters of PLM. Yes.
Right. So apparently, and I haven't even heard the propaganda history, so I don't even have a baseline of what could be false. But I did hear about things like peaceful sittings and stuff like that. And there's like evidence that suggests that they were the peaceful protests of their time. Which is to say they weren't peaceful at all, but protests manipulated the history just like they're trying to do now with the year of...
I can see the logic in that, but also there is a very big deal about contrasting Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X, and saying how Martin Luther King he succeeded because he was peaceful versus Malcolm X, who didn't succeed because he wasn't peaceful.
So he was successful because he was peaceful. His propaganda made it appear as though he was peaceful, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he was actually peaceful.
Let's say I advocate for perfect libertarianism, but secretly I'm a serial killer. Does that mean that the protests aren't peaceful?
Well, so there is peaceful in action and there is peaceful in theory. You can be peaceful in action, but not peaceful in theory, right? You could be a person who never harmed anybody in his life, but is advocating for murdering everybody, or you could be peaceful in could be militaristic in theory but peaceful in action, or you can be peaceful in theory and militaristic in action. You could say, oh no, I'm not going to target any civilians, but in reality you are. Or the Iranian regime might say, we don't want nuclear weapon, we only want to get the nuclear technology for peaceful purposes, but really they scheme to destroy Israel and the world and themselves as quickly as possible. So
Finally agree.
yeah, the
Well, I
two
mean,
don't have to.
that's not true
match, is what
because
I'm trying to
they
say.
don't. They just pretend. They don't even pretend to be peaceful. They call just for America
No,
and
they
Israel
don't.
the whole time. They say that they want to build nuclear weapons, but let's not
No.
slide to that
No,
subject.
no, they never said they want to. They never say they want to build.
Should I
nuclear
send you the
weapons.
interview?
Sorry.
Should I send you that interview of the general who said so?
The general, the one general,
Yeah.
the one general that said, you know how many, what Israeli generals have said over the years. No, I don't want the one general who said
No, the
that.
one
I
general
want
said that
the-
there's no point in hiding it. That's what we're doing. Can you give me an Israeli general who said there's no point in hiding our genocide? We wanted to destroy all the Palestinians.
Probably.
Actually, yeah, you could probably find someone
Okay,
like
go
that.
ahead and do that. I'll get the Iranian one and we'll have a competition.
Okay. No, the point is that the official Iranian government, you can choose not to believe them, and I actually opened a wide door to say, to give them as an example of somebody who might be lying. But there's no doubt that the official Iranian stance is that Iran is not interested in developing nuclear weapons. As I said, you can choose not to believe them, but there's no doubt that that is the official Iranian
Right now.
stance. Right now.
Interestingly, so there's this podcast that I regularly watch, and one of the hosts is he leans left. He's a reasonable guy, but he leans left. And there was this whole back and forth of why he particularly cares, why he seems to like Democratic politicians or people and personalities for the Republican ones. And he basically got to the root of the fact being something like he believes them. He believes them when they say stuff like mostly peaceful protests. And he believes them when they say stuff like we want to help the poor. Obviously in action they're lying and they're sociopaths that steal people's money and are just what's that French way of saying it? They're envious. There's like the French way of saying it, which makes it worse because it's French. So anyways, it basically comes down to do you believe people or not, and a lot of times it's. I find this on a personal level. As a female, I do think I'm more agreeable, for instance, than. I'm much less agreeable than most women, but I'm much more agreeable than.
Yeah.
most
First of all, I was going to say I'm your brother, and I'm more agreeable than you are.
No, absolutely, yeah. But I'm less agreeable than Omer, obviously in some aspects. So it's. I think there's a lot of that comes into play, and see like the of like who leans left versus who leans right, and it's very pretty much exact with male female.
Yeah, that's true. All the leftists are women.
So
I was
I
going
think
to
it's
say
a lot of that. It's
that
like-
it goes back to how I feel that over time we agree more about concepts and agree less about facts. I'm pretty sure that if we agreed about the facts, me and Dad would actually agree about most things. But since we don't.
Actually, I ran this experiment with you like many months ago, many years ago. In theory, you cannot persuade somebody else to agree with your ultimate goals. But once you agree on the ultimate goals, then you should be able to persuade people about the best way of getting to that ultimate goal.
I think what you said was the exact opposite of that. That everybody seems to agree on what the ultimate goal is, but we all have
that's-
radically different.
Exactly. No, the two are correct at the same time. You cannot persuade other people to agree with your ultimate goal, but happily, most humans share the same ultimate goal, so that stage of trying to persuade them is not necessary. We all want the Middle East to be peaceful and prosperous,
True.
right? There's no doubt about that. The question is, how do you get the Middle East to be peaceful and prosperous? And there are disputes about historic facts, but those I think are easier to resolve, or at least in principle possible to resolve. The disputes that I think are most difficult to resolve are hypotheticals. Sort of, what would happen if we did A, B, or C?
No, but that's based on
Right.
our disagreement on facts. I believe that the Palestinians want to destroy Israel and don't want peace. You don't agree with that. Those are facts, though.
No. Those are those are not the pertinent facts. The most pertinent question is, what would happen if we tried whatever? I have my pet idea, you might have yours. Now, you probably think that if we tried what I'm suggesting, either Israel will be destroyed, or at least there will be a bloody war and a lot of people will die on both sides.
Right, but let's say I get you a video of, for instance, an Iranian general saying that they're planning on building nukes. You would say he probably doesn't mean it. It's not, that's not actually what those people believe. Whereas we would have the exact mirror opinions on an Israeli general if you would bring him up.
Possibly. But my point is that what people believe is not cast in stone, right? It's not immutable.
No,
what people believe changes, and it changes depending on circumstances.
Right, but I remember,
so for instance,
I had a conversation with a leftist on YouTube. This was many years ago, and he was telling me how awful and dishonest Tucker Carlson was. And then he gave me a whole clip, like a half an hour video, full of Tucker Carlson lying, and there are air quotes on the lying, because I didn't perceive those as lies. I thought that he was just, you're misinterpreting what he's saying. He didn't really mean that. And I feel that lots of our current discourse is exactly that. Like, for instance, the left and the right hear the same things that Donald Trump is saying, but the left takes it completely differently than the right does.
I think that's actually exactly what I was trying to get at earlier when I said, okay, so for instance, Tucker Carlson is actually a great example. I trust him less now than I used to, but I gave him a lot of the benefit of the doubt. So this is always like a point of contention between me and Omer. Someone says something that can be interpreted like, so for instance, you remember in Charlie Kirk's funeral, Tucker Carlson gave a speech saying something about those damn hummus eaters, and them conspiring to kill Jesus. Now, I took it as, this story is taking place in the Middle East. Of course, people eat their hummus there. And obviously, one of the people eating hummus is literally all of them, but also, Jesus himself. But a lot of people took it as, including Omer, him specifically trying to say the Jews without saying the Jews.
I agree with Omer, by the way.
Then, so I used to not be with Omer. I used to believe Tucker Carlson when he says, I'm actually not racist. I just don't think so. And then he proceeds to say what he wants you to think.
Okay, wait. This is going to where I was aiming. Tucker Carlson is not anti-Semitic. He doesn't believe that Jews are all evil. But every single conspiracy about the Jews he believes, and every single conspiracy that puts the Jews in a good light, he doesn't believe. That's not because he hates Jews. He just is predisposed to hate Jews.
Well, look, in action, he says, he doesn't want you to think that he hates Jews. But whether or not he hates Jews, I can't know, and no one can know. Maybe he even doesn't know, because he could be lying to himself. But the fact of the matter is, where is he focusing his attention? That's another back to the conversation about writing history. It's a matter of where you focus your attention. You can't just. So for instance, Nick Fuentes. He talks about the Jews in a manner that, if you take it on the nuance level, it's actually interesting because Jews, like any other culture of people, they have a tendency for certain behavior patterns, right? If you like the way this group is acting, you might think that's a good thing, and if you don't like it, you might think that's a bad thing. For instance, no Irish need apply. The reason why that existed was because the Irish were acting in an inappropriate manner in the workplace. So there was elements of truth to that. Obviously, we're individualistic. Everyone on an individual basis can be different, but on a group level, these cultural behaviors have consequences, and if you wanna, and you have to deal with them genuinely if you want to solve these issues. Another popular example would be like crime in black community or fatherlessness in black community. So long as you pretend everything's okay and nothing's going on because you don't want to talk about the group level aspect of it, then you can't really resolve the issue. So I actually gave him the benefit of the doubt of saying, okay, so there's a group level issue with the Jews having loyalty towards Israel for historical reasons and for, of course, tribal biological reasons. Which is, I think, I give more credence to now than I used to.
I personally much prefer Nick Fuentes because, first of all, he's honest, but also he's like charismatic. But mostly he's honest. He's just like authentic, unlike what I feel about Tucker Carlson.
Does any of you recall anything specific that Tucker Carlson said that struck you as untrue?
So this is the issue exactly that I'm getting at. Sorry, Bar, I can't hear you. If you want to go.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Okay, your volume's a little low, so so Jeremy Boring actually recently started
and I started listening.
He's something about his affect is like off-putting to me, but what he says is actually good. I'm trying to get over it. Okay, so he was talking about whenever a conversation goes, actually, to give Omer credit, he actually told me that this is what Tucker does before Jeremy Boring even started his YouTube appearances. Whenever a conversation goes well for Tucker, he just shows you the conversation. But whenever it doesn't go well for him, he does a monologue in the beginning of the conversation, before the conversation starts, basically framing the conversation in a way that makes you more likely to perceive it in a certain manner.
I think I also saw the video that you saw about that.
You saw Jeremy Boring's video about that?
Oh, yeah, that was Jeremy Boring. Yes, he said that, exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, a great example would be his conversation with Mike Huckabee in Israel, right? So so that's very manipulative what he did when he told when he said that Mike Huckabee was saying that the Israeli army, the way Tucker framed it in the beginning of his monologue before the conversation, he framed it as Mike Huckabee thinks that he disrespected the U.S. Army because he thinks so he didn't even detail why he disrespected the U.S. Army, but then basically it was because Mike Huckabee said that Israel is acting like in one of the most moral ways in the world. Its army acts so Tucker Carlson basically framed it as that, saying that the U.S. army isn't moral because by comparison Israel is more moral, therefore the U.S. army isn't moral. It was completely disingenuous and completely a matter of framing it in a way that I don't think it's a question of how whether or not you think he genuinely perceives the situation in this manner, or he just trying to frame it so that other people perceive it in this manner. And the more I see him, the more I think he's capable of understanding the nuance of the situation, but he chooses to frame it in a disingenuous way. And I consider that it's a much higher level of manipulation. It's not just straight up lying in a way that's obvious. Although he did recently say, "I never said that Trump is the Antichrist," and then you saw that.
I was just about to say that I saw a clip on X for 5 whole minutes of him contradicting himself for a while, but I do feel like he just doesn't remember saying those things, or the way his mind is working in that specific moment. He just doesn't agree with past Tucker. But I think, and this goes back to Dad's question, I don't think that he's lying. He's not lying. He just has a really biased way of filtering information.
So I don't agree with that, but yeah, go ahead.
With Mike Huckabee, by the way, I think what happened is that Tucker Carlson takes it for granted, take it as a proven that the Israeli army behaved most immorally.
Exactly.
And you can disagree with that, but the point is that if you accept that, and obviously a lot of people in the United States and around the world do accept that, then when Mike Huckabee says, basically, I don't remember his exact words, but basically the Israeli army is more moral than the American army, then the conclusion is that since Israeli army is more moral than the American, and Israeli army is terribly immoral, put one and one together, the American army is genocidal.
Yeah, but that's
And
not even what he said. He said something like, in some instances, they go above and beyond what we've even done.
I just wanted to add.
That's what he actually
I agree with that.
What Mike Huckabee said.
I agree with what you said. I do believe that Tucker believes that the Israeli army has been incredibly immoral, and
I don't know.
I believe that Tucker believes that. But I believe that Mike Huckabee doesn't believe that, and I believe that Tucker should know that Mike Huckabee doesn't believe that. Though I don't know if he just doesn't have the theory of mind to understand what Mike Huckabee is saying. But also, for me, from my point of view, I think it's completely ridiculous to say that the Israeli army has been immoral in Gaza. From my point of view, Tucker is just lying. But I have the theory of mind to understand that he really does believe that.
Hold on. If you just said that you think Tucker does believe that.
No,
I did say that.
From his perspective, it could appear as though he is lying, but because Bar has theory of mind, he's saying he knows that.
That's where.
So you don't really think Tucker is lying. You think Tucker is mistaken.
I think.
Yeah, I think Tucker is lying.
I think.
I used to think Tucker was
I
mistaken.
think that Tucker has a very biased way of processing information. That's what people do. Everybody does, basically. That's my point. People don't have. We all agree on principle. We just don't agree on facts.
I don't know about that. Like I said, it's. Do you believe them when they tell you that it was a peaceful protest? Do you believe them when what they say is they want money for the middle class?
I mean,
I don't believe them. I used to believe them. I used to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I think they have resentment.
Resentment.
So resentment, but in a French way, so it's worse. So like the resentment that gets you to the guillotine. That's the level of resentment leftists have, and they don't actually care about the poor. They really don't. They just want to eat the rich. They just want to kill people who they perceive to be unjustly more successful.
I agree with you, but I believe that they care about the poor.
So they're lying to themselves.
I think here at this point, I want to say something that I probably said in the past and probably say many times in the future, and I think it's a very general, useful maxim. As a rule, lay people should be believed and politicians should not. So I think the average democratic voter indeed wants to help the poor, while the average democratic elected official knows better and doesn't really.
That's
and I think
assuming
that's
democratic
true
politicians know
for
things.
Republicans as well. As a rule, and there are exceptions, but as a rule, politicians lie, and ordinary
The
people don't.
exception is that when they agree with me.
Okay, so I do have something. Okay, so this is about another question about the level of analysis. So yes, on an individual basis, you might be able to find a good amount of leftists that genuinely want to help the poor. I think I can find. I think Shuan Head.
I was just
you guys
going to
know her.
mention Chuan Head because I saw her video yesterday or something.
Yeah, against Hassan
And
Piker.
I was going to tell.
Yeah.
I left a comment there saying how yes, it seems from your point of view that Hassan, you can't comprehend why he believes those two things together, and that's how I feel when I hear you talk about economics.
Yeah, so anyways, it's so Shuan Head, I think, is genuinely like she cares about people and she just wants them to be happy, but she's a woman and she doesn't understand economics, so she leans socialist. So are you talking, but you can see on a demographic. Okay, so one of the things that made like Atlas Shrugged so controversial was the way Ayn Rand portrays like the average lefty voter. So you as the reader might perceive, on average, you should believe them when they say they're not fueled by resentment, but rather by wanting equality. But Ayn Rand, like, there's this scene, a great scene, where the one of the trains goes into this mountain, and the conductor knows that if he goes into the mountain tunnel, then everyone on the train will die. But he knows that if he doesn't go into the tunnel, then he will be blamed for not going through the tunnel and thereby destroying this politician's career. So he's in a no-win position, and the best way to avoid getting blamed on an individual basis and disputing the blame around is to actually kill everyone on the train and go through the tunnel. And spoiler, he decides to go through the tunnel and everyone on the train dies. And in the framing of that scene, Ayn Rand basically says, now it's true that none of the passengers know exactly that they're in this position, and why it's unfair that the conductor was put in this no-win position, so that the incentives are aligned, that he is incentivized to murder everyone. But the woman in Train Track 1 said her husband is a lawyer and he sued General Motors, and she said, why do I care, they're greedy capitalists. And then she goes one by one to each one of the passengers on the train, and each one of them holds an opinion that was a part of the culture that made this scenario what it was. So she's basically saying, the Jordan Peterson thing, it's not there's one tyrant on the top and everyone else is like being abused by him. It's tyrants all the way down. It's the culture that brings about, that summons the leader, is actually at fault for summoning the leader because of their temperament. And this is a level of understanding that's difficult for us as individualistic people, and we're very individualistically minded. Like, we don't necessarily support Israel or don't support Israel because it's our clan or our tribe or our people or our family even. We're very autistically separating these two issues, and I think are capable of being fair about it. But the fact that the matter is, human beings are tribal and they're social, and 99 there's even studies about the people who change their opinion based on what other people say. To what extent is individual action relevant, and to what extent is group action relevant? And should we be blaming groups for bringing about certain leaders?
Well, I think that blaming leftists is a good thing, but blaming rightists is not. Because leftists work on moral condemnation. So the way you make a leftist outraged or make him think outside the box is to make him feel like he's immoral. Whereas the right, if you tell them that they're immoral, they'll just disregard what you're saying.
That's not true. That's exactly the moral manipulation that they've had so far. They just don't believe you anymore. It's like they used to be all like, oh, I don't want to be perceived as a racist. No, I'm not racist. I'm so and so. But because they don't believe them, because it worked so well, it's no longer a viable tactic. It worked too well for too long. It got abused. Yeah. And now the right doesn't believe leftists when they call them racist, but they did actually care. They cared so much.
That's true.
It changed their actions.
It's true that they care about how they're perceived. I'm not completely certain about what I'm saying, but I feel like if the rightist is told that he's racist and he knows for a fact that he isn't, then he'll just disregard what you're saying.
Yes, he's disagreeable in that way.
If the leftists, you could convince a leftist that he's racist despite supposedly knowing that he's not, are racist.
They're the real racists. Okay, what do you think that? To what extent can we judge people as a collective?
I think most people are genuine, and politicians are opportunistically making use or exploiting the genuine belief of their constituency. They are also manipulating it. So it's not a one-way process. It's a circular process. A lot of people in America, after the Lloyd George death, genuinely believed black lives are being disregarded. Now, statistically, we can argue that they were wrong, but I think a lot of people did believe that. Politicians that could and should have known better made cynical use of that. I think in the same way, most people on the right genuinely believe, like you two do, immigration is destroying the social fabric or is dangerous to the future of America.
Right.
And I'm not doubting that you believe that, but I think Donald Trump has made cynical use of that sort of strand of belief in the public. And the reason he made that the centerpiece of his campaign in 2015 was because he correctly and shrewdly identified that this is a winning card which to run a political campaign. Does that help?
Well, I mean, you made it sound a little
it
more...
does explain your view. You're not blaming the individual. I think we should blame the collective more than we do. I think there's a reason why
I don't know
people
what it means to. I don't know what it means to blame the collective.
take cultures.
Collective is not.
No, of
sorry.
course. You can only take action and you can only become better as an individual. But
Right.
we need to be cognizant of the fact that that there is such a thing as standards and norms within groups. Okay.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if the Jewish community gets a lot of so I'm in a lot of like Jewish WhatsApp groups, okay, and recently someone tagged the synagogue with a swastika and like called I don't know, filthy. I don't even remember. It was whatever. It was a tag of a swastika in some statement. So a lot of people's reaction was, I don't know to what extent, but they basically treated it with a level of gravity that I wouldn't have. I dismissed it as like an idiot child is like too much online and is basically destroying private property. So that's the level of analysis I had. But they obviously went to the level of analysis of, again, everyone hates us, this is awful, I can't believe this is happening, and they catastrophize it. And to what extent is that because of the culture and the stories that we have around constantly being like victimized? And
Right.
it's just if your group mentality and everyone that says, oh, you're so brave, thank you for doing that, whenever someone does a certain action, obviously you're going to see more of that action taking place.
Absolutely. So let's go on and dig a little deeper. I said that most individuals genuinely believe what they believe. However, it's very important to agree with you that the way people reach the beliefs that they have is not by having landed as aliens and with a blank slate and reviewed what's going on Earth and reach conclusions, but they come to their belief set as part by being embedded in a particular culture. So the leftists who believe that black people are being massacred en masse believe that because that's what they hear from everybody around them. By the way,
specifically,
Lara, I'm getting just a second. I'm getting an alert here that your storage is critically low, and that your recording upload may be at risk. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that.
I didn't...
Yes, it says here that your storage is critically low.
Oh, I don't know either.
So, you're sitting at the computer. Are you running out of disk space or something?
I don't have a disk space meter. I'm not putting anything on my disk. Is it recording on my computer?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's recording on your computer, and then it's going to upload it when
Okay,
it's
so
done.
I'll delete something.
Okay. So anyway, where were we? Sorry.
The influence that people are getting from the outside is partially what makes them their opinions.
Exactly. So we all are embedded in a society. I happen to be fairly far away from any influence that I had in my childhood on, in terms of my economic libertarian views, but possibly not in my anti-Zionist views. That I did get from my father, right? You, Gil, obviously your economic views were influenced by me, but you've had many years since then to evolve them, and a lot of your views, like on immigration, for instance, didn't come from me, but are probably influenced by the that you tend to trust
And admire,
and
yeah.
tend to interact with,
Yeah.
right? It's natural, it's almost inevitable. So in that respect, you can personify a political culture or subculture or whatever, and say this political subculture is the source of beliefs that people, while genuinely believing, those beliefs are actually very harmful. They might be factually wrong, and they might be very sort of ill-advised. So in that respect, yes, you can blame a particular culture, and I was probably too quick earlier to chastise you for using those terms.
I don't remember any chastisement, but thank you for the apology.
I'm pretty sure
okay,
that's
so,
what you meant. You
I'm-
said that we blame people as a collective, but what I think that you meant was hold people morally responsible for the side effects that they aren't aware of their actions.
Yes,
well-
and more often than not even their actions, but their
Beliefs.
beliefs. The only action associated with that belief might be, for a lot of people, it's voting. Sometimes it's not even voting. Sometimes it's talking to their friends or maybe going to a demonstration. So, but these people, these are not bad people. They are just
Okay, so
they're just
that's where I disagree. I think they are bad people. I think they now look. Obviously, like I'm saying, it's not that you can genuinely like punish a group for an individual's actions. So like the guys who want to go assassinate Trump. It's not that every leftist in the country is to blame for that. It's just that they're in that milieu. They're in that support system where they actively encourage that behavior, and they are at fault. They are bad people. They are individually responsible on a moral level for this happening. Okay, so it does. Okay, why did was it Thomas Jefferson? The Constitution is only like possible for a moral and religious people. That's what it means. That means each of us as an individual has to be moral in order for the whole system to function. And so long as each of them as an individual is acting in an immoral manner, which is to say, treating human life and human property as dismissing it as less than and not very important because of things that we might consider superficial. But they are responsible for the culture. They're each one a node in this culture, and if the culture is bad, that means each one of the nodes is bad. Okay, it's the story of what's his name, Noah, who went to the city that God wanted to destroy, and
that was Abraham that went to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right. So like there was a reason why God told him. And he was trying to negotiate with God. This is actually okay. I'm getting sidetracked, but the point is, he was trying to say, but what if there's this one individual in this collective that's actually a moral actor? And God told him, okay, go find. Like he kept negotiating down, and basically saw there was not a single moral person in that city. And I think that's a true lesson. I think that's meant to describe this type of scenario. It's not a tyrant at the top. It's tyrants all the way down.
I'm afraid to arrive at the Kantian view of morality, but I'm a leftist, and everybody around me is leftist, and everything that they say is how evil racism is, and like the protests were peaceful, obviously. Just being like completely neutral personally, like I don't care about this stuff. I'm just saying what I need to say to not be castigated by my entire social group. That I don't think that's immoral. I think that people just do what if you're actually neutral, you're just doing what you need to do to get by. I can't morally castigate that, even though that's the type of behavior that creates the situation.
Let me give you an example from a slightly different domain. There are obviously a lot of people who are very concerned about climate change. I think that, I listened to, Ezra Klein. Let's give you an example. I listened to Ezra Klein interview, discuss the issue, not recently, I think he has other interests now, but a few years ago, and I genuinely believe that he genuinely believes that climate change is a major social issue, economic issue, obviously environmental issue, that it is incredibly important that we take radical steps in order to sustain the future of humanity. Now, if we go back to the analysis framework that we had before, Ezra Klein and I probably agree that we all want humanity to flourish over the next few decades. So the difference between us is not that he wants, a different world than I do. However, I don't think that climate change was at all a major issue, and he did. Now, from his perspective, he wasn't lying, he wasn't manipulating, he wasn't being cynical. He genuinely believed, based on listening to a lot of people around him, right? Probably more people in the public sphere felt like him than felt like me, right? So people believed, and he believed, that climate change is a major issue. Now, in order to resolve climate change that he saw as an existential, or at least a major threat to the future of humanity, he advocated taking what we would consider sort of aggressive, coercive policies, right? Limiting people's choices to protect the planet, or however else you want to put it. I don't think, if we just focus specifically on this issue, disregard other things that Ezra Klein believes, I don't think Ezra Klein is an immoral person for believing that it's okay to impose, high taxation on fossil fuels in order to save humanity. I think he's mistaken, but I don't think he's immoral. Do you have a deep perspective?
You're coming to an issue with that, because I agree with you that he isn't immoral. He isn't doing a bad thing. He's doing a bad thing, though. That's what I meant to say.
No. That's a very important distinction. You can do a bad thing without being a bad person.
Okay, so you can make mistakes, certainly, and you can change your opinion, and then you can correct, if you're genuinely a good person, you can correct us. Okay, so I think this stems from a fundamental disagreement, which is morality objective? Okay, and the fact of the matter is you don't believe it's objective, so you can't say yes, but he's wrong and I'm actually right. So his collective action is wrong, but my collective action is right, because there is such a thing as objective morality, and killing people is objectively wrong. And you might say, okay, so another element of this is ends justifying means. So is it okay to break a few eggs to make an omelet? And a lot of people on the right would say they stick to their principles, and they say no, it's never like the ends don't justify the means. The end. I think a lot of people on the right they are much more inclined for self-reflection. I think it comes from the guilt-based morality that they have, Christian morality. They're starting from the position that they're all sinners, and we're all sinners. We're all like imperfect humans, so our perspective might be flawed. So I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Maybe I'm wrong. While a leftist thinks I know I'm doing the right thing, and therefore this will achieve the goal that I'm trying to achieve. And therefore it is okay to break like 3 eggs, because 4 eggs will be saved.
Well, I don't know. Do you find that right people around you are showing this kind of sort of internal
humility?
I don't know how to phrase it. Soul searching when it comes to immigration.
Look, I don't interact with real people. I only interact with people online. So on politics. But from what I see from the people that so the people who are left-minded, who I admire, are now considered on the right, despite being temperamentally left-minded. Why are they on the right? Because they are capable of objective thought and knowing whether or not that they are capable of making mistakes or not. That's what makes them on the right.
No, I think there's a different perspective, which is to say, actually, maybe I'm agreeing with you. The line between left and right has been redrawn.
Exactly.
So you can take somebody who believes in... It's a matter of priorities, isn't it? You can take somebody like, not Eric, but the other Weinstein.
Yeah, Brett.
Brett, right? Who is basically a socialist,
exactly, yeah.
Right? He believes in redistribution, and you can treat him as a moral person on the right because he doesn't really believe, COVID nonsense, or he doesn't believe in censorship. But that's a function of how you choose to where you choose to draw the line between right and left. He is in many ways, and historically and traditionally, would have and still considered. By the way, Gil, your storage is now critically
Oh yeah.
low.
Okay.
I don't believe
According to this
your
alert
message
message on my
anymore.
screen.
Mine isn't critically low. I'm
Well,
I guess it depends where it stores
all
the
I can tell you,
recording.
I have no idea what's going on your computers. All I can tell you is the red messages that appear on my screen. You can choose to ignore
Right.
them. I'm
okay.
just
Wait,
telling you what I'm
Yes.
seeing.
since we've been disrupted, I'd like to note that what you were talking about. Oh, first of all, let's go back further in the conversation. You were saying about how some people believe it's okay to break a few eggs to make an omelet. I think that some people believe that it's okay to break a few eggs to make an omelet, but those aren't eggs that you're breaking. You're doing something wrong. That's not going to produce an omelet if you do that.
That's
Yeah. So that's what.
But you believe that, don't you? You believe that it's okay to break some eggs to make an omelet. Again, going back to the immigration, you believe that it's okay to.
I think
I think there's a
I think that,
misunderstanding.
that
People
it's
who are-
I think that it is okay. The problem with believing that it's okay to break a few eggs to make an omelet is that you're giving yourself license to break eggs and you're not sure how to make an omelet. If you could be completely certain of how to make an omelet, I think that breaking a few eggs is what's required in many cases. But what I was trying to stress when I was saying that is that redrawing of the left and right, that's when we change from having different values, from disagreeing on principle to disagreeing on facts. Now, you said that Brett Weinstein is on the right because he doesn't believe COVID. That is a fact. It's not. He didn't disagree on how to treat it. He disagreed on what it is.
Okay, so yes, that comes from that. That was what I was referring to. He's a great example. He's one of the people that I think of as temperamentally left-leaning, but he is categorically considered on the right now. Even like RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or Shuanhead even. I mean, she's like objectively, she calls herself a socialist, but I think a lot of people would consider like she does like more humor-based content than political.
Yeah, she's
commentary,
right-wing
but
because
it
she's
is around
actually funny.
politics. Yes, she's funny. So that also makes her by category on the right now because she's funny.
So who is it that you're talking about? Didn't
Shuanhead.
Shuanhead.
No, I don't know her. Send me the name on WhatsApp when you
Yeah,
chat. I'll
but
look it
yeah,
up.
Brett Weinstein or Tom Bellew or Tulsi Gabbard or all these people, they're considered on the right. Temperamentally, they're lefties, but
No, they're not temperamentally leftists, sorry. They're leftists in terms of their political views. They're considered on the right now because political views are complex and multidimensional, and which dimension we should look at to determine whether somebody is on the left or on the right varies. Look at me, for instance. If I went to the United States, I would be considered right-wing because I'm a libertarian. If I went to Israel, I would be considered left-wing because I'm for a Palestinian state or whatever. Right? I am the same person with the same set of views, but in different countries or in different contexts and different times, which of those views determines
Yes.
your position on the scale varies.
I agree with you that it depends on what is considered left and right culturally. But I'm saying there is such a thing as a left and right temperament, and you have a left-leaning temperament. Bar has a slightly more right-leaning temperament, and I have an even more right-leaning temperament. There is such a thing as personality-based left or right categories. In my opinion, that's the way I designate it.
So help me understand that. In what sense am I temperamentally left-wing and you're temperamentally
You
right?
believe them. You believe them when they say that it was a peaceful process. It's fundamentally comes down to how agreeable you are. Now that has different dimensions to it, but I think that's like the most fundamental element of.
Right, but you talk about temperament, you're talking about in the abstract, right? I believe that many BLM protesters, not the rioters, but many BLM protesters genuinely believed that people's lives are not taken seriously enough, right? Now, I have the same view about a right-wing protest, about the Tea Party protests, or about people who are oppose immigration. I think that most of Trump's voters or Nigel Farage's voters in the UK genuinely believe that immigration is bad for the social fabric and the future of the country. So if that's what makes me temperamental, then I'm really odd in that respect, because there aren't a lot of people who genuinely believe people on both sides. People tend to have very asymmetric views. You believe people on your side, but you don't believe people on the other
Okay,
side.
so first of all, I'm all about Rupert Lowe now, from Nigel Farage, so 5 minutes ago. Second of all, there is a right and a left temperament. It encompasses agreeableness and openness to experience.
I was going to correct it
as far
to
as big
openness.
5 traits. You think it's more
Yeah,
openness?
I think that what separates left and right is degree openness.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. There is something to that, because I know some disagreeable people who are more like openness guys. Anyways, I think it's related to. So in a lot of when I say so I want to go back actually, because when I say I want to I'm willing to break eggs, it's because that's your perspective that I'm breaking eggs. I don't actually think that each individual action I take is immoral. I think there is a reality that I deal with, but every single action that I take, I think along the path of what I'm trying to achieve, is actually moral. So for instance, if someone broke into my house, and in this analogy, my house is the country, and I am physically removing them, I don't think that's immoral. I think I'm morally defending my property. So you might think it's immoral because you don't consider the state like the property of the citizens, and the citizens are the ones enforcing the physical removal. But I do. So that actually comes back to Bar's point about it's categorical understandings of reality. So like, is the country like a property that I can have a right to enforce my?
No. Even if I accept your premise, if you were, and obviously it's not your actions because you don't act in a political sphere in significant ways, but the actions of the people that you support. If somebody presented a plan to expel 10 million illegal immigrants, but nothing is perfect, right? So there is a low error rate. Let's say that there is a 1% error rate, okay, which is very low for government action. So we expel 10 million people, but we accidentally expel also 100,000 people who shouldn't have been expelled. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it was killed,
so that's a few eggs.
I am okay with expelled, and I have a problem with killed.
No, it's just a political reality. You can't act without there being some.
Yeah, I was going to say this.
Like that's just
you
a
could
fact.
say that you could say.
Let me rephrase what you just said. You have to break a few eggs to
the
make
point
an
isn't
omelet.
that it's okay to
True.
break eggs. The point is that it's Shavuot,
But I don't
and
think
then we're in the middle of an egg fight, and people are throwing eggs at you, and you have to break a few eggs or you'll lose.
Okay, so yes, that's what I'm actually saying as well. Thank you, Bob. We are in the middle of an egg fight. Eggs will be broken whether or not I am the one throwing them, or someone is throwing them at me. So if it's a question of saving my life or the life of a stranger, I will save my life. If it's a question of my well-being or the well-being of someone who broke the law and decided to come here illegally, that's I prioritize my well-being and the well-being of my countrymen.
I understand how you're framing it, but the bottom line, and that is how everybody that said that sentence has framed it, right? The Reds during the Russian Revolution, right, also talked about, there was a war and eggs were broken on both sides.
Okay, but you know the
whites
difference
and the
between
Reds.
those and those,
And the
right?
Tsar definitely
Yeah.
broke
I
a
think
lot
it's
of eggs.
self-defense.
The
And the
difference
ultimate-
between us and them
Yeah.
is that we're
So the
correct
point
and they
is-
aren't.
Okay, so that goes back to the objective morality. Well, whatever. Okay, go finish your point then.
Okay, so my point is, if you are willing to accept harming innocent people to achieve your political goal, is precisely the meaning of the sentence being willing to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Now you might say, and I might even agree with you, that realistically that is always the case, because the error rate is never zero. And if the error rate is never zero, for whatever policy you want to take, then you are implicitly saying, I'm advocating for a policy knowing that some innocent people will be harmed through that policy. right? But don't pretend that being willing, wanting to break eggs to make an omelet is a left-wing thing. It's a thing that every political actor is implicitly.
No. I'm not saying it's a left-wing thing. I'm saying, okay, it's not even necessarily related to politics. So, for instance, are you willing to let people die in car accidents so that other people can drive? It's just...
No, I don't let... No, I reject the premise.
I reject your premise.
Letting people is not an act. No,
you
haven't heard my premise yet. Letting people do something is not an action. That's I think the whole question is about
no.
positive
What I'm
action,
saying is the same
not
thing.
refraining
And you're
from
misunderstanding. I'm saying the exact same thing you were saying.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm not taking physical. I'm not initiating force against the people who are trying to get rid of, like, or I'm trying to remove from the country. I'm saying they were the ones who initiated force. They were the ones who broke the law.
No. The ones that you want to rightly expel are the ones that initiated force. But the 1% error that we're talking about, 100,000 people that are the 1% error in the system, are the people
this ties into our Israel-Palestine debate also. Because the point isn't that it's okay to get the 10%. The point is that your enemies are putting the 10% there, especially so that you can't fight back.
Maybe, and I'm glad, Bar, that you felt that the immigration debate was too vanilla, and we had to introduce the Israeli-Palestine to give us a little more action. So let me.
You're saying, okay, 1 second.
Summarize.
So what you're saying is you're suggesting that I can never defend myself because someone else might get harmed in the process of my defense. So if someone breaks into my house and I try to shoot him and the bullet ricochets and hits my neighbor, that means I was immoral and I broke eggs by defending myself.
I never said that breaking eggs to make an omelette is immoral. It's considered immoral because it's a sentence that's associated with the communists who acted very immorally.
That's right.
Okay, I have a very, and I think probably a worldview that we share. Hold on just a second. Okay. So I've just got a message that I have about 5 minutes. My point is, I have a very coherent political theory that says that ironically, objects to political action. I'm saying individuals should be considered individually, and we should find means to minimize errors. If errors are made, because we're all human and errors cannot be, then they should be unmade. There should be a compensation protocol to remedy errors, and we can agree on that. Where I object to, it's okay to break a few eggs to make an omelette, is that how shall I put it?
That's not how you make an omelet.
People seem to think that it's okay, that are at peace at breaking those eggs, which I translate to be harming peaceful people. That it's not a problem that a few innocent people were harmed, because it was done in order to make the
I'd just like to note
good. And my perspective is it is a problem. It's something that we should strive to minimize, and we should acknowledge that it is a necessary evil, if it is indeed necessary, and we should work very hard.
I think we all agree on that.
I don't think
but I was going to say that it's very ironic that Gil is supposedly arguing on the breaking eggs side, and Dad is supposedly arguing on the don't break eggs side, when Gil is the one who believes in objective morality, and Dad just believes in what he believes for utilitarian reasons.
No. I believe so. The difference between us, we'll get to that some other time, right? You and Gil might believe in objective morality. But it's not as if I don't believe in morality. I do believe in morality. I have very clear ideas of what's right and wrong, right? I will fight against the things that I believe are wrong just as strongly as you fight against the things that you believe are wrong, right? The fact that I don't think that my beliefs are objective doesn't make them any less strong. I have a very clear sense of right and wrong, and in that respect, and that's the only respect that's relevant for this conversation.
Well, but it does make
How can
it.
you be humble and suggest that there is such a thing as not and there's not an objective morality? I'm kind of answering myself in my head already. Never
All right,
mind.
let's not get into it. I really
we
have
have
to
to go.
wind down, because unfortunately I have a diabetic dog that I need to inject in
That's
5
what you would say.
So, I enjoyed our conversation thoroughly as usual. Sorry about being a little late, and we'll talk again
Hopefully.
next week.
Okay. Good call. Good call. Thank
Okay.
you guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.